Okay, hello YouTube, Muckluck here, and I just finished spending a few hours learning how to play Heal Spectre. And whew, do I have some thoughts. All right, first off, what did I play? On Snowcrows, I found a guide on how to play Heal Spectre in high-end content. I basically used this as the framework of what I was trying out. So in it, I was using Scepter with a pistol. I did not have a legendary pistol with the right stats, so this is the only item I have equipped that has the wrong stats. We're using Concentration and Transference. We're using Plague Doctor's gear with Rune of Water. We're using a combination of Plague Doctor's and Giver's gear over here with Relic of Caracosa. We were running Shadow Arts, Trickery, and Spectre. And just to show quickly that I kind of had a handle on the rotation, Aurora, if you would be so kind to run in with me, we will go in 3, 2, 1. And we are going to run in here. And I'm going to drop this down, and I am going to use my steel, do a few boons, and do some shadowy nonsense here just to give some boons out. And you can see those boons are climbing. I do have quickness. Hold on, I'm going to use the ambush on the teammate here. All right, so we get a bunch of healing from that, and then I have to target the golem again, and then we do this thing, and do this, and then steal again, and then F2. And okay, you can see my boons right now. I think they're adequate. They kind of show you that I sort of know what I'm talking about here. I have got a basic understanding of how to play the class. Just, run! You're gonna die. And yeah, so and that is that. So we had all the boons that you would want your healer to be able to provide, as well as alacrity. Once again, I was getting quickness from the console to simulate being in a party environment. Now, how does this thing work? Like pulling teeth is the short answer. So essentially what you do, in a way, there are some things about it that make it easier to learn. You only really need one weapon set. We've got a main hand on one set and an offhand on the other, and that way, when you hit weapon swap, nothing happens. But it does do weapon swap, which triggers a trait in here that gives you some initiative. This also is triggered if it's off cooldown. It has a cooldown when you go into Shadow Shroud. That is considered another weapon. Now, the way that you do this, you essentially start the fight, you use Well of Bounty for a whole bunch of boons, then you use your 2 key on the enemy a few times and it gives might. Then you go into Shadow Shroud once you have some energy on this bar, and in Shadow Shroud, you use some keys. Primarily, I was using 2, 4, 5, 2. That would generate a whole bunch of alacrity and other boons on the party, as well as some healing and some barrier. I would leave Shroud, which does a big heal and stuff based on the leftover shadow stuff. You're spamming Siphon basically every time it comes off cooldown, just because that gives more boons and some other stuff. And then on occasion, you will use Blinding Powder to vanish, and you will target an ally and use the 1 key, which does the Healing Ambush, which fires a whole bunch of bolts and boons. And then before you detarget them, you also fire the 2 key a couple times to refresh Prot on everyone around you, and then you go back to wailing on the boss and the whole rotation starts over. Now, first off, let's talk about the tools. You do constant small amounts of healing and barrier, and when you do the healing ambush, you do a massive amount of healing for a few seconds. That's how it feels. Your Well of Gloom, which is the healing well, teleports you to a location and does a very large amount of healing in the area. This was not something that we were forced to spam in our rotation. It felt good as a ability to do a lot of healing. We also had Well of Bounty. Now, Well of Bounty is the only source, I think, of group stability. I had some people tell me that Shadow Shroud 5 does group stability, and other people told me it was just you plus one other target that's tethered to you. I do not know which is true. However, both Shadow Shroud 5 and Well of Bounty were part of your rotation. So they were not just there and then you hit them when you need them. It was more like, if you needed stability for a mechanic, I hope it just happens to line up with when I hit Well of Bounty, because I was already going to be hitting it for boons every time it came off cooldown. So that felt bad. It basically felt to me, as a newbie Spectre player, that I did not have an on-demand stability. I did not have one. Sometimes the boss would do a thing and I'm like, oh cool, this happens to line up with Well of Bounty. We're not gonna get knocked across the room. But most of the time, it felt like I did not have a stability on demand and I did not have an Aegis on demand. Blinding Powder is a stun break, but it's also part of your rotation because you use it to blind and then you zap an ally. Now, Blinding Powder, actually, for those who don't know, if you get stealthed, it turns off your auto attack. If your auto attack was going, 1-1-1-1-1-1-1, no hands, it turns that off. So there's actually some cons to running this support. If they run Blinding Powder, you basically, part of your rotation is turning your allies' attacks off. And now the next time they hit a button, it turns the attack back on. But there's actually even a warning on Snowcrows that basically says this is extremely disruptive for the Deadeye teammates. Make sure to put them in your other group. So, okay, so you don't have stability on demand. You don't have Aegis on demand. You have to target the enemy. You have to target an ally. You have to ambush the ally. Then you go back to targeting the enemy. It felt bad. This is my, I think, 13th healer I've learned at least the basics of. I'd say 5 healers I'm very fluent in. The rest I'm going through and I'm spending like 3 hours on each one and learning how they play. This is hands down, of the 13 I know at least the basics of or more, felt like the absolute worst to play. I really did not like this. I really did not like it. It is viable. I do not want you guys to think I'm saying this is bad. It is viable. If you have a good one in your party, they will give you all the boons you need. They will give you the healing you need. They will give you the barrier you need. They'll have CC. You do have CC on demand. You have multiple skills. Pistol 4, your Shadow Fall, Well of Silence, except Well of Silence is also Conti Cleanse. All of these give good CC. So you have CC, but you're stealthing allies and turning their attacks off, as well as like, I have to target an enemy, I have to target an ally, I have to target an enemy, I have to target an ally. That felt really bad. Recently, I tested Warrior. Warrior Staff, during the beta, the 3 skill had required ally targeting. And now they were like, this feels terrible. And they're like, you know what, we'll change it. So they changed Warrior Staff to target an area on the ground. It's similar to this type of thing right here. And then you do this, and it would just like heal the people in that circle or in that area. I cannot pretend to speak to for all Spectre players because I'm not a Spectre main, and I'm sure as hell not turning into one. But I personally would only be able to main this class if they made some changes like that. I came from 7 years of EverQuest, 10 years of WoW after that. I have played classes that did healing where you were doing it where you like, click people's names and then you fired the heals at them. This is not that kind of game. It feels bad in this. Having to go from, click whack-a-mole of low health bars in the UI and then also target the boss for other things. It would be different if you only had to do one or the other. Example, if you were firing at the boss and you constantly did small heals to the lowest health teammate, that would be okay with me. Or if you were constantly targeting allies and they buffed, there's a thing called Rot Wallow Venom. When you heal an ally, their next attack to the boss does Torment. So you are still providing damage to the boss while you're like healing an ally. I'm gonna zap him a few times so you can see the Rot Wallow right here. If they changed it a little bit, like I have to hit the boss, I believe, with some things to keep might up, but I have to hit allies with some things to keep prot up. If I could only target allies and do my job, or only target enemies and do my job, I think and again, we're only talking my opinion here, I would be okay with it. But having to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and then go invisible and turn their attacks off and then ambush the healer, it felt really clunky and awkward. It felt really awkward. So yeah, and then, again, my stability was part of my rotation. I didn't have it on demand. I did not have any Aegis on demand, which there are other classes that don't have Aegis on demand. I'm just pointing that out. Cleansing felt weak unless I overlooked something. I had Well of Silence for Condi Cleanse. By the way, the tooltip on Well of Silence, freaking weird. It says number of impacts 5. It doesn't say how many conditions it cleanses, or conditions it will cure. Every other tooltip I know of in the game that cures conditions, for example, if I go to Signet of Agility, it says conditions removed 3, targets 5. It hits 5 teammates. But Well of Silence says impacts. I assume that means it does 1 condition cleansed of 5 pulses? I don't know. Also, my God, when I was trying to learn this thing, hold on, I'm gonna despawn this so I go out of combat. This thing gave me what I would like to call the heal brand treatment. Look at that tooltip. It goes off the top of the screen, and it goes off the bottom of the screen. I can't even see the name of the skill to Google it or to go to it on the wiki. So I had to like /wiki the shift click abilities to find them on the wiki, or I would have to go to the Scepter page on the wiki for this class to read the tooltips to even see what they do. And that went for a lot of the Scepter skills. Look, there's another one. It wasn't just one skill, as well as the Shadow Shroud skills, because the Shadow Shroud skills, some of them were really bonkers as well. Now, I eventually got a handle on it, but Annette, please, I would love to see you clean this up. Just put them like side by side or something. This is ridiculous. Like when I have to go to an external website to read my abilities, come on. That's pretty bad. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer. I don't mind the initiative system. I kind of like it, actually. The initiative system is basically, if you're below 100%, you're using it as much as you possibly can be. And there's a sense of efficiency to that. I like that. I like the efficiency system more than I liked the Warrior's Rage system, for example. I did not have any hate for the initiative, but it was just like all the other stuff felt really awkward. It felt really weird. Trying to think if there's anything else. There was a few notes I took while I was figuring out how to do this. This thief character, I had never played Spectre since a beta character, so I did not have the hero points for it. So I was like, oh, I got to go to World v World. And oh my God, I had so many problems on there. This is slightly off topic for the video, but I was like, okay, apparently when you go into the aerodrome, you can't see the world map to see your progress on Central Tyrian mastery points. When you buy a stack of 100 notarized scrolls of Tyrian heroics, you cannot hit use all. So I had to click the pile 200 times. When you have proof of heroics for Path of Fire or onward, you cannot use proof of heroics to buy the Path of Fire or onward masteries. So if you buy the wrong one, but you accidentally buy Path of Fire, you can undo it. But if you buy the wrong one and you buy Maguma, you can't undo it. So like, dude, I was in World v World for 5 minutes and I was just like, ah! Oh man, it was a horrible experience. Anyway, yeah, so the normal kit for this does not have a stun break on demand because you're using blinding powder as a rotation. It doesn't have a stability for its group on demand unless I miss something because you're using it as part of your rotation. You do not have an Aegis on demand. It has weak Condi cleanse. It has good healing in good hands. It has good barrier for your teammates, very good boons, good CC, very high mobility, and I'm gonna be honest, it takes many times more effort to play and provide those things than most of the other heals. I have now learned the basics of 13 healers. For like 4 of them, you could say I'm super fluent. This was the most challenging one as far as like gameplay. Not like learning it, but gameplay. Knowing that I had to fire 2 bolts at that guy, and then I had to target the boss again and do 3 things on him, and then I had to ambush that guy, and I'm turning my allies' attacks off. The whole thing did not feel great. So yeah, that's it. I think that's it. Also, I had to call someone else in here. I couldn't even practice the rotation in the test room without getting someone who was kind enough to come in here and stand here. It wasn't possible. You cannot practice Spectre without calling in for backup. So that was kind of annoying. That was just kind of annoying. Aura says hi. But yeah, anyway, that was my feelings on Heal Spectre after a few hours and full clearing all the strike missions. My ears are completely open, my eyes are open as far as if you guys want to tell me all the ways I did it wrong, or did I hit the nail on the head with any of these pain points? I'm very curious. Right at this moment in time, with the way it is currently designed, I have no desire to play this again, nor would I probably recommend this to others. But yeah, anyway, that's it. That's my thoughts on Heal Spectre, and I'm off to the next one.